Why Italian men never leave home, even at 40. A 75-year-old woman in northern Italy did something that made national headlines. She sued her own sons, not for money, not over an inheritance. She sued them to make them move out of her house. Her sons were 40 and 42 years old. And here's the twist. The court sided with her. The judge ruled the sons had to leave by a set date. Case closed. Now, if this sounds like a bizarre one-off story to you, I have to stop you right there. Because in Italy, this isn't rare. It's not even unusual. There's an entire word in Italian dedicated to men exactly like this. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why. And the numbers behind it are honestly hard to believe. Hey guys, I'm Luigi and welcome back to How to Mamma Mia. If you're into Italy and everything about its culture, the good, the weird, and the wonderfully chaotic, hit subscribe, because that's exactly what we do here every week. The lawsuit. Let's go back to the story, because the details make it even better. The mother from the city of Pavia had spent years, decades, doing everything for her two adult sons. Cooking, cleaning, managing the household. Even though both men had jobs. At some point, she'd simply had enough. She asked them to move out. Politely at first, then not so politely. Their answer? Neither of them wanted to know. She later told local media, meaning they simply ignored her. So she did the only thing left to do. She took them to court. And here's the part that really matters. The judge didn't just side with her out of sympathy. Under Italian law, parents do have an obligation to financially support their children while they're growing, studying, becoming independent. But the judge ruled that obligation has limits. And two employed men in their 40s were well past them. The sons were given an eviction date from their own mother's house. This story made international headlines because to a lot of the world it sounded almost unbelievable. Who needs a lawsuit to get their adult children to move out? But if you ask most Italians, they weren't shocked by the lawsuit at all. What shocked them was that it took a courtroom to solve it. The numbers that sound fake, but aren't. Here's where it gets interesting. Because that mother's situation isn't rare. It's close to normal. Let's start with one number. Roughly 2 out of every 3 unmarried young Italian men still live at home with their parents. Not for a few months after college, for years, sometimes decades. Take a breath with that one for a second. 2 out of 3. Now zoom out even further. Across all young Italians, ages 18 to 34, about 67% still live with their parents. That's more than 2/3 of an entire generation. Compare that to countries like the US, the UK, or Germany, where moving out around 18 to 22 is treated almost like a rite of passage, a mark of becoming an adult. In Italy, that's not the cultural script at all. Italians even have a word for this, Mammone, literally mama's boy, but it's used so widely, so casually, that it's lost most of its sting. It's not really an insult anymore. It's just a description of daily life for millions of men. And it's not only about age either. Many Mammone continue getting help with cooking, laundry, even basic errands, well into their 30s and 40s, sometimes even after they get married. So the question isn't really, why did that one mother have to sue her sons? The real question is, why is this the norm for an entire country, when in so many other places it would be seen as deeply unusual? That's exactly what we're going to unpack next. Why Mammone isn't really an insult in Italy. If you grew up in the US, the UK, or most of Northern Europe, you were probably taught, even if nobody said it directly, that moving out is basically proof you've become a real adult. Staying home past your mid-20s can feel a little embarrassing, something you'd rather not bring up on a first date. In Italy, that entire framework barely exists. Independence, in the way English-speaking cultures define it, living alone, cooking your own meals, being financially and physically separate from your parents, just isn't a marker of adulthood there. Family isn't something you graduate away from. It's something you stay inside of, often for your whole life. Sunday lunch with mama isn't a special occasion. For a lot of Italian families, it's simply Sunday, every Sunday, for decades. And there's no social punishment for it. Nobody's whispering behind a 35-year-old's back because he still lives at his parents' place. His co-workers probably do too. His best friend does too. It's not the exception. It's the shared experience of an entire generation. So when English-speaking media reports on Mammone with a slightly mocking tone, as if it's some kind of national embarrassment that says more about cultural assumptions than it does about Italy itself. But, and this is important, it's not only about culture and family values. There's a second, much less romantic reason, and this one isn't about tradition at all. The real reason, it's also the economy. Here's the part that often gets left out of the quirky Italian family narrative. Italy has one of the toughest job markets in Western Europe for young people. Entry-level salaries are often too low to cover rent in most major cities, let alone rent plus food, transportation, and everything else that comes with living alone. And it's not just about finding any job. It's about finding stable, well-paid work at all. Short-term contracts, unpaid internships that drag on for years, and a labor market that simply doesn't move as fast as in countries like Germany or the US. All of this pushes the timeline for real independence much later. So picture the actual choice many young Italians are facing. Rent a small, often expensive apartment on a salary that barely covers it, and live paycheck to paycheck alone. Or stay in a full house with home-cooked meals, family support, and money left over to actually save, travel, or invest in your future. Framed that way, staying home doesn't sound irrational at all. It sounds like a financial strategy. This is really the combination that creates the Mammone phenomenon. A culture that never stigmatized staying home in the first place, layered on top of an economy that makes leaving home genuinely harder than in most other Western countries. Take away either piece, the cultural comfort or the economic pressure, and you'd probably see very different numbers. But together, they've created a national pattern strong enough to earn its own word in the dictionary. What they gain, what they lose. So is staying home this long actually a good thing or a bad thing? Honestly, it's both. Let's be fair about it. What they gained, home-cooked meals every single day, not the microwave dinners a lot of 20-somethings living alone survive on. Lower living costs, which often means real savings by their late 20s, sometimes enough for a down payment on their own place later. And something harder to measure, but just as real, genuinely closer relationships with their parents, built on decades of daily contact, not just a phone call every couple of weeks. What they lose, independence skills that usually get built by trial and error, managing a budget alone, cooking for yourself out of necessity, fixing your own problems without someone else stepping in first. Some Italians who leave home later in life describe a real adjustment period, almost like catching up on adulthood all at once, in their 30s instead of their 20s. And there's a more delicate side too. Remember that lawsuit from the beginning of this video. It's a reminder that this arrangement doesn't always stay comfortable forever. Sometimes what starts as family closeness slowly turns into dependency, and by the time everyone notices, it's a lot harder to untangle. So no single verdict fits every of them. For some, it's a smart, loving, financially savvy choice. For others, it's a comfortable trap they never quite manage to live. So, Mammone. Part cultural tradition, part economic reality, and honestly, part unresolved family sitcom playing out in millions of Italian homes at once. Would you personally still live with your parents at 30, at 40? Be honest in the comments. I'm genuinely curious whether this sounds completely normal to you or absolutely wild. If this video gave you a little more insight into Italian culture, the real, complicated, not always Instagram perfect version of it, hit subscribe. We've got a lot more of this coming. The traditions, the quirks, and the everyday realities that don't usually make it into typical travel content. See you in the next one. Ciao!